And when he was a prisoner of war, he was constantly moved around camps. As a prisoner of war, he would have experienced a lot of harsh conditions. And when he went back to England, he would have wanted to help improve people's lives. And the way that he thought he could do that was through becoming a solicitor. I'm going to be talking to you about the memoirs of Bob King. Bob King is particularly interesting for the Law Society because he was actually a prisoner of war when he undertook a lot of his qualifications in the Second World War. And these are very interesting because it relates to a sort of time period that people don't really know about, which is when people that were prisoners of war were still undertaking training to be solicitors, and many did qualify as solicitors after the conflict. And we have some items here that he was donated to us. This includes a memoir, photographs of the prisoners of war, and actually even his prisoners of war certificate. We know about Bob King through his memoir. He was studying law before the outbreak of war, and then he was called up. Like many others of his generation, he served. In 1943 he was taken prisoner, and then when he was a prisoner of war he was constantly moved around camps. Bob King was part of what was known the Off-Leg 79 Camp Law Society. This was formed in Italy, and they were then finally later on moved to Germany. Many Allied prisoners would be moved around depending on the tide of the war at the time. And obviously there was a big challenge in setting up another Camp Law Society. This does not seem to have been a challenge to Bob King and his colleagues. His actual prisoner of war certificate actually shows the names of the camps that he was in. It also shows what legal books he was reading at the time. But this did not stop his studies. He, like many other prisoners, actually carried on with help of the Law Society, who actually sent books to them and actually sent them exams based on those books. We know that Bob King went on to become a successful solicitor, and he actually even contacted the Law Society in his later life when he was in his 80s to actually donate the photograph that I've got in front of me now. And you can actually see Bob King in the photograph as a very young man. He was always very proud of his time, and he really wanted the Law Society to be commended for helping them achieve their goals of becoming solicitors. When people donate material to the Law Society, as an archivist, I always think it's really great because it helps build the collection. An archive is not what is known as a dead collection sitting on shelves. It's something that's evolving through research and also evolves regarding getting recent acquisitions. Getting material from individuals is really great, and it's great for the Law Society because it builds our knowledge of the solicitor profession. This item is particularly interesting to me because it shows an often unused and unknown idea that people were studying in prisoner of war camps. People have the idea that prisoner of war camps were really harsh conditions, and of course they were, particularly when prisoners were moved on what were called long marches. But most of the time, as Bob King says in his memoirs, it was boredom and you just had to fill your time. And one of the ways that the prisoners of war did this was to actually organise themselves, and they even had things like camp universities. The fact that Law Society aided these people that wanted to become solicitors pretty much helped establish the solicitor profession after the Second World War. It helped fill in gaps where people wouldn't have had to train in, wouldn't have been able to go to university because everybody would have been called up, and there would have been a gap in education of about 4 or 5 years, I would imagine. So having people being trained and filling in positions was something that I think was incredibly important for the Law Society to do. And for the generation of men like Mr. Bob King, we owe thanks for being able to do that while still undergoing treatment of being a prisoner of war.